Okay. Have you ever felt like you had to make the perfect decision with your pet's end of life health choices? That's what today's discussion is going to be about. We're going to talk about the three perfectionism traps that happen with owners, especially with their pets' end of life issues. We're going to also cover how to not get caught in that perfectionistic grief. Okay. And in getting started, y'all, I'm Erin Davis. I'm the host of Bossing Up Overcoming OCD. And in today's episode, I normally release episodes out once a week. So I'm going to try to do this on lives, and you're welcome to join me live on YouTube, ask a question, share a comment. Your feedback is very helpful in bringing about like the content you want to hear, because OCD is very sneaky and you never know how it's going to show up. And so many people deal with OCD and not even realize it. So today's episode is like 115, which is incredible. Okay. For pet loss and OCD, we've already talked about the difference between OCD and grief, and I've got past episodes on that. But today is specifically about that perfectionism and why perfectionism makes pet loss so unbearable. Because you can't perfect your way through grief, and trying to be the perfect like pet owner is only feeding your OCD. On top of that, today we're going to talk about giving yourself permission to grieve, like whatever that looks like, messy, gray, unperfected, whatever it is, just giving yourself permission to grieve. All right. So let's take a story, for example, with Jennifer, who lost her dog, Max. And OCD, loves to take control. And so for her perfectionism, she had to create the perfect memorial because that symbolized her love for him. It also symbolized that she was closer to him. She was not ready to let him go. You see, like it represented so much more than just having the perfect memorial. And when I say the perfect memorial, like she has a shelf, she has pictures, she has candles, like it's a dedicated space for her to look at Max's remains photos and remember him. Then the other pieces that happens for Jennifer when it comes to Max and losing Max is she tries to remember those perfect final days with him. And there is definitely something to be said here, because every time we leave a relationship, we start to reminisce, and we reminisce in a very romanticized way. So all of those health conditions that Max went through, Jennifer now is like, was it really that bad? Did I not like pay attention, and like did I rush things, and maybe it just he didn't need to go right then. And the other perfectionism here is that she is trying to rehearse in her mind in those memories, like, did I have like the perfect last days with him? And now this may not show up as like you saying the words verbatim of perfect, but it could be like, did I spend enough time with them? Was I kind enough to them? Did I take them to the vet when I should have? Or just having that, you know, lingering guilt of, oh, I shouldn't have got mad at him on that walk, or I should have given him more treats. But like that's all perfectionism, because you're wanting to be the perfect pet owner. And anyhow, we're already in this grief phase, and she is stuck in the grief. She's stuck in the perfectionism, and therefore it's making the grief more complicated. So instead of just allowing herself to be and experience the feelings, she's trying to create things all around Max, of losing Max. So again, she's not allowing herself to grieve. She's trying to make these perfect memorials, doing the reminiscing as well as researching, which we will get into. So the trap number one, the perfectionism traps in pet loss, the first one that I see most often is analyzing if they made the perfect decision, like trying to prove that you made the perfect choice about the timing of the euthanasia. You are also researching endlessly to confirm if it was like the right moment. You've done all of these quality of life scales, but the reality, y'all, like first of all, you can't control your pet's health. You can't control their, wellness, their decline. I mean, yes, there are things to be done. And that's the tricky part about OCD that I explain to my clients all the time is that, yes, it's reasonable to be concerned if you took your pet to the vet enough, or it's reasonable to be concerned if your pet is showing health decline issues, right? Like normal. Okay, so there's this reasonable side of OCD, but then OCD is that time where it crosses the line and it becomes excessive. So, and that's where for Jennifer, or if you're in this boat, like you're stuck in that perfectionism trap of thinking, did I make the perfect decision when you don't have ultimate control? And that's really hard to acknowledge for someone with OCD. And then there isn't a perfect time. Okay. Now, there could be better times, or there could be times that are more suitable or just in general better for the pet, maybe to help with their suffering, or knowing that you don't have to board them right before your Christmas vacation or spring break. Gosh, I can't believe it's like spring break is knocking on the door. Anyway, so all in all, the reality is you made the most loving choice you can make with the information you had at the time. And that's all it is. And you have to get to a place, and that's what you can work on in therapy, is you get to that place where you trust yourself that you made the best decision for your pet in that moment. Trap number 2 is creating that perfect memorial. And it's hard. Not only is it hard losing your pet, but then creating this memorial, it's symbolizing so much for you in that relationship you had with your pet. But you're spending weeks, if not months, creating this perfect tribute. And you feel like nothing you do is good enough to honor them. Maybe you're redoing the memorial over and over, or you're changing things around, or you're carrying the urn with you to ensure that you can preserve your pet's memory. So in reality, there isn't a perfect memorial for your pet. The simple fact is that your heartfelt emotions and relationship with your pet, that beats perfect every time. Your pet knew that you loved them, and you know deep down that you loved your pet. So no matter what this memorial looks like, that's not going to change the relationship and the bond that you had with them. Trap number 3 in this perfectionism of pet loss is feeling like you have to move forward at the perfect time or in the perfect way. And this gets very messy, I'm sure you can imagine, with grief and pet loss, because grief is already complicated. And in losing a pet, you're thinking like, when is the right time to get another pet, or what's a great way to honor their memory? Like, it almost feels like you are betraying them in some way if you're moving on. And that's not at all the case. Like, there aren't perfect steps, and whatever you need in this moment is okay. It doesn't, again, degrade that relationship that you had with your pet. That bond will always be there. That love will always be there. And that's what's true. That's what's real. And so when you change the story, you can change how you feel about it. So, for example, here are some key things you can consider in making those mental shifts. So, instead of thinking of perfect, which again, it may not show up as perfect, but y'all know what I mean when you're in that headspace and you're like, I've got to do more. That's perfectionism. So, instead of going from I got to do more and I have to create or hold on, like just shift to enough. And what I also like to think about is remembering your truth. So not only are you shifting from the perfectionism, but you're shifting into I am enough, my love was enough, our relationship, our bond was enough, and resting in that truth. So you could try things like, I'm grieving the best I can right now, and that's fine. That's enough. Or it could be, a simple memorial made with love is enough. It could be I made the most loving decision I could at the time, and that's enough. It could be however I'm feeling right now, that's just what I'm feeling right now. Like, and side note, your suffering is not going to last forever. One of the other things you can try in shifting your mindset is closure isn't perfect, health isn't perfect, making euthanasia end of life decisions is never perfect, and it's okay. I did the best I could. I'm doing the best I can, whatever that looks like for you. Okay? Because time and time again, whether you're a perfectionist or you have OCD, like, you are your worst critic and you beat yourself up. And you don't deserve that. Your pet wouldn't want that for you either. And I don't say that from a place of guilt, but or wanting you to feel guilty, but from a place of really acknowledging your truth. And your pet loved you and they were always there for you whenever like you were having a hard day. Cause like, especially with our pets, they know how we're feeling and they're there for us. So if you're caught in this perfectionistic grief with your pet, I want you to consider, like, you don't need to keep redoing their memorials. You don't have to have a perfect way to grieve. Definitely don't compare your grief to others because your grief, from your pet, that's on your own timeline. Also, if you're stuck on the should haves, remember you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. Nothing's going to be perfect, and that's okay. That's out of your control because perfectionism does not exist. So, and it may feel weird when things like aren't right, but again, perfect timing doesn't exist. Good enough timing is all you need. Okay, so we talked about how you can't perfect your way through grief. You also don't want OCD stealing this peace for you, like this time of grieving and for you to have some healing. So, what I encourage you to do is identify one area where you're trying to be perfect in your grief and practice saying, "This is enough." As well as, like, if that doesn't work, because sometimes perfectionists have a hard time with, like, well, when's enough enough? And I get it. But acknowledging your truth. I feel like coming back to the truth is really your anchor. So you could practice saying, I loved Max and he knew I loved him. And that's not reassurance, that's fact. So, and hopefully this helps you in moving forward in whatever way that looks like. Okay. So in the next episode, next week, I'm going to talk about continuing bonds and moving forward with your pet's memory. And your pet, obviously, and you knew this about your pet, they didn't love you because you were perfect. They loved you because you were you. Whether, you're this messy, imperfect, but beautiful human, you can honor them in the same way where you just love them authentically, unconditionally, because perfectionism isn't required, definitely not for love. So, but your presence is, and your peace is definitely needed. So, thanks for listening. Appreciate y'all who showed up live. Can't wait to do this more often. And I'll see you next week. Stay blessed by the best.